coming from Merkle and our sort of identity and data background, we really think that this is an interesting opportunity for us at Merkle to sort of get back to the roots and specialize in true direct marketing, one-to-one, people-based marketing. I really think that email has often gotten a bad rap, but it's really, I think, the key to moving forward with whether it's self-registered users on sites or whether it is actual communication via email. I really think that we're going to see a big swing and a big uptick in that form of communication, using email as the key to advertising, whether it's online or whether it's a message through email to those individuals. And then obviously tying everything together with consumer identity, one true identity, one look, and then at the end with measurement. I think that you'll see a lot of solutions like M1 either try to be like M1 or will start to work on their identity in this space. And whether it's publishers or advertisers, I think we're starting to see that pick up, honestly.
So tell us sort of the opportunities for publishers to have get this sort of identity scenario where they don't in many cases. What are the opportunities for the publishers?
Yeah, I really think, over the last sort of probably 7 to 10 years, publishers have been grappling with, how do I still get good yield on my inventory now that we're in programmatic world, we're in this exchange, and they haven't really focused so much on the paywall and so much as understanding who's actually hitting their site above your basic male, female, demographics, age, gender, et cetera. I think publishers really need to double down and focus on identity and focus on getting actual known data points around consumers who visit their site. So that's email, that is creating an identity graph with some of the solutions out there, really harnessing the power of their content to drive more identity-based solutions on their site. In a post-cookie world, I think the winners of identity space will be king in that world. And I think it's going to come from all angles, whether it's a publisher, the ad tech vendor, obviously with agencies buying the data companies who specialize in identity and data. I think that publishers really need to focus on identity on their site.
So you're back from a couple years abroad in Europe.
Yes.
Give us sort of your take on GDPR and sort of its impact.
Sure. So I've been in London for the last 2 years working on M1 EMEA, which has been great. Learn a lot about that world as well as America, living abroad as an expat. I think GDPR is a fascinating study in a couple of things. Clearly, there is this push for consumer advocacy and consumer privacy and knowledge and choice about data and what's being used on the consumer or against the consumer in targeting. I think that is starting to clash and merge with the politics and those who write the laws and actually understanding how the tech works or not understanding how the tech works. GDPR is a fascinating case study in how the need for that choice and accountability and understanding of data has clashed with the actual ad tech capability. When GDPR hit in the UK, it was a bit of a doomsday scenario. Most publishers were not ready for it. Most agencies were not ready for it. I remember sitting on several calls on both sides with our clients, on sides with our publisher partners, and there was a lot of questions, a lot of ambiguity. People were really sort of sitting in that gray area of trying to be as compliant as possible, but not truly understanding the law because it's written very in shades of gray. It's hard to understand unless you have extremely expensive attorneys and lawyers advising you on what to do. So I think it's been an interesting study in how to implement something and what happens. So for our case, we work in the world of data, we work in the world of identity. There were a lot of questions on if we would get a significant amount of attrition from our data asset that we have in the UK. We saw no more than 5 people in a span of 6 months after GDPR, and then even in the post, I guess it's been 2 years almost since GDPR hit. that have left our data or have asked to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten, which is a GDPR subject's right. They can ask to be forgotten. So it's been interesting to watch in the consumer response to GDPR. So the consumers, I think it changes your entire internet experience. When you go to any site in the EU, you have to opt in automatically to actually see the content. And so it's a bit of a hassle, to be very honest with you. It's if coming from an American perspective, from someone who's used to sort of like the open internet where there isn't everything behind a paywall, it's an obstruction. Now, if someone's asking me for my email address to see content, I feel totally fine giving that. But just to get into the site, you have to click through many T's and C's to even just see the content. So it's been interesting to watch it sort of from all perspectives. Since I'm a consumer, I'm living in the EU, I work in advertising, and I work with publishers. So to see all sort of like variations of it, it's been a really interesting case study, and it's coming to America. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of months, couple of years.
Yeah, and it sort of it involves a balance, doesn't it, between getting stuff for free and people's personal information,
right?
And if people are cool about it, and then of course the political winds around it.
Right.
How will that shake out, do you think?
I definitely see. I see a need for privacy. I work in data all day, and I see a need for data privacy and data advocacy and transparency. And I think Merkle, we do a really good job of that. We are upfront and are compliant with IAB in the US, with the DAA, ad choices, et cetera. I think that in the GDPR world of things, a subject or consumer can ask you to forget their data and can ask you to remove them from their database. Much of the way of canned spam and everything that came out when emails first started going crazy in your inbox. I think that there's a need for that. And I think you have to respect an individual's right to be forgotten on the internet. Now, on the flip side, I also understand and highly value exchange data for data. I will give my data, my email address, to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whomever to be able to access content. And I'm okay with that. Facebook, Google, I'm okay with that because I understand what that means. So I think it's a bit of advocacy and education to the consumers in the US. And I think it's also a bit of understanding and advocacy to our lawmakers here to really explain how the tech works. Because in the world of GDPR, you can see in the way that the law is written and the way it's been carried out that has not occurred. So because I've gone ahead into the last 2 years in time with that GDPR sort of knowledge, now coming back to the US where you can start to see the winds of privacy sort of really pushing through the US with California, the different things that are happening here. I think the one thing I wish that would sort of take place is really that education and advocacy to our lawmakers to write a sensible, understandable law that has clear technology and clear understanding of how to be compliant with the law. And so there's no shades of gray like there are with GDPR. And so we're all in the same boat, and everyone has a chance to participate and a chance to get a jump on it and make sure that they are compliant and that it's not a last minute rush so that they're compliant with the law.